Hello, everyone. I'm Jean-Claude BeyondMystic, and welcome to the show. Tonight, a brand new series called The Quantum Woo with Maryam JeanClaude. Of course, this is a deep woo-woo dive into spirituality and the path that we are taking. We're going to share that with you tonight. Of course, you can find Maryam JeanClaude's work on YouTube at Maryam JeanClaude, on Twitter at Maryam JeanClaude also, and at honeycolony.com. Let's give her a big warm welcome back to the show. Maryam, bienvenue.
Hey, bonjour. Hello. Happy to be with you as always.
I'm excited to have you too. You haven't been on in a while. You've been so busy covering this whole other thing, and we won't talk about that tonight. Tonight we're doing a very high vibe spiritual journey type of episode. And I'm excited to do that with you. And you know, it's funny because that's how you and I first started our relationship, was to talk about this stuff. And of course, then we went into the rabbit hole of politics in November and, you know, all that stuff. So we're coming back to our roots here. So thank you so much for joining us live on this interactive show. We will be taking your questions and comments as we go along. And we want this to be a conversation. This is not so much an interview as much as Maryam and I shooting the shit about our daily lives and how we woke up and how we're dealing I guess with all of that, and how maybe we use different tips and practices to ground each other, to come back to center, and to support each other throughout this path. So hopefully some of that will resonate with you guys, and we look forward to hearing what you think about the show as well, because we have a few ideas of, again, this being a series and having multiple shows and even some guests here on this series, again, entitled The Quantum Woo. So let me bring that poster back up. Maryam, before we start the show, tell me what energy and frequency comes up to you. You and I have worked on this draft concept here for the audience. What comes up to you when you look at this poster? What's the frequency?
I see infinite possibilities, positivity, and portals that we can travel through. What do you see?
Well, the first thing to me is quantum entanglement and how everything's connected. So I saw that in terms of the background. You give me that energy of that galactic shaman, divine feminine, magical witch kind of vibe. I don't know. I really like it. I think it's really cool and apropos for the show.
Yeah, that was taken in Costa Rica, several pre-Rona on the ocean, with a wonderful photographer named Melissa, and we did so many shots, and it was all really, she captured me in the essence. So there was a lot of excitement and magic and being in Costa Rica.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Ronnie says, hi, Ronnie. She says, I see a warrior in portals. Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. Definitely. Let me see if I get. Oh, hi, William. Thank you so much for being here. Alexa, Mary, thank you so much. Yves Langlois. Hey, French guy. Nice to see you, Yves. And Jim Montgomery. Nice to see you. Jenny B. Whoop, whoop. Jenny B, thank you for being here, Jenny. Yeah. Leslie, thank you so much. Hey, you guys are amazing. I see a lot of those PayPal tip jar donators come back, and it's always the same people supporting the show. They're really awesome. So thank you so much, all of you guys.
It's a beautiful, beautiful audience.
Yeah, it's really cool. What else do we have? Okay, I think, man, I'm excited to get into the topics here, and I thought we'd start this way, Maryam. I have a few notes, but again, I want this to be more of a fun conversation between both of us. And as you and I started this relationship, we have to call it that, I think it was June or July of last year. So to give the audience here kind of a feel for how long we've been communicating at this level. But in our first show, or maybe the first show, or at least the second show, you shared a story at that time. I had a very small channel about Mark. And so the story of Mark and how all of these things connected. And that gave me kind of inspiration for the show tonight. This idea of quantum entanglement, this idea that our souls are traveling through time, where there's no time, basically, and how really, really cool magic happens when you start following the woo and letting the wave take you to where your soul wants to go. So to put it that way. So if that makes a little bit of sense here, let's start with that story, and I'll give you the floor here to lay down some track.
Thank you. So this is basically the story of my spiritual awakening age 13. So I was raised Coptic Orthodox, which is Christian, Egyptian, and part Greek. And my father would wake me up every Sunday and force me to go to church. So there was Sunday school, and before Sunday school, there was two Marks. One of them we would call Mickey, and the other one was Mark. His parents ended up divorcing. The father met another woman, and she moved the mother to Ottawa. So that's 2 hours. So every other Sunday, they would make the trek and come to church. So this Sunday, walk in, and I find out that Mark has been hit by a 18-wheeler. I'm 13, and has been thrown to the side and is now on a life support. This was my first encounter, what would be with death. I remember in Sunday school saying, well, what happens if you're a Muslim person and you're a good person and you died, you go to heaven? And they said God will take care of them, which was like a red flag to me, even at that age. Right. So I'm trying to truncate this magical story. I became obsessed with Mark. He was in life support. I was too young to go to Ottawa to pay my respects, to visit him. Obviously didn't drive. A couple weeks passed. My father called me. I was watching Days of Our Lives with my girlfriend. I was young. I still watch soap and TV. And she said, and my father said he died. I couldn't, again, go to the funeral. And I became obsessed where in the evenings I would wonder, I would listen to Art Bell, at a young age. And I discovered astral projection through this radio station and started reading. And I remember just trying to get out of my body, trying to get my body to make contact and figure out where he is. When I got good at it, I would kind of almost disconnect. And I had a voice that said someone might take over. That was not a 13-year-old's voice. And I got spooked out, and I never did that again. So I would pray over the years to how he was doing. Fast forward, I am in, the mother was very touched by me. And he had a crush on me, I think, and I had a little crush on him. Very puppy love. So years pass by, my mom gets remarried. We're in Cuba. And literally the night before, I say, I'm praying, and I'm just sending, I wonder where you are, Mark. And then I'm on the beach the next day, and these two girls say, hey, are you Indian? And I said, no, I'm Egyptian. And they said, the one girl said, oh, I used to know an Egyptian, but he was hit by a truck. And I just said, is his name Mark Malad? And it was. And so all these years later, she told me about the memorial, and it was magical. And so I then fast forward again, my grandfather dies. My grandfather was in the 90s. We were in a limo with my cousin. And I remember saying, do you know where Mark died? I didn't know where he was buried. I knew it was on the outskirts of Montreal. And I made a prayer, and I said, if it's meant to be, I'll see him. But we got to the cemetery, and it was huge. And we were praying. We were putting my grandfather in the ground, and my cousin taps me, and she points, and 2 rows behind was this pink granite tombstone, and it was him. And I went and I paid my respects. And now fast forward again, I get hit by a car. I didn't get hit by an 18-wheeler, but I get hit by an SUV and almost die. And I have this metal rod in my leg, which is irony in itself. And I met this woman, Sally Adderton, and she used to do these sessions with me where we would channel my higher self and the purpose for my being here. So on one of the courses where she's mentoring me, we were talking about guides and angels. I'm sorry, it's taking long. I'm almost there. So talk about my guides.
They're saying don't rush the story. Details matter. So take your time.
So we're talking about my guides, and I asked her, well, I think that I have a guide, and do you see this young boy? And she said, yes, he's taking care of a lot of people. He's overseeing a lot of people. And including his sister. So we get off the phone and I'm like, he doesn't have a sister. He had a brother, an older brother named John. So maybe you guys can relate that sometimes you're moved by something and it's not apparent what is driving you. I found his last name was Malad. I looked up all the Malads, and his mom had gone out on a date with my dad. I mean, they went to church, so it's not like it was out of the ordinary to track them down. But I thought I was looking for the brother. My goal was, well, I wanted to see if he had a sister, but my goal was I had always wanted to get a picture of Mark to put on my altar. And so I was calling, and second to last person, I ended up calling my dad to get the mom's number, but I was looking for the father and the sister. So I call, and second to last call, a girl picks up the phone. I could tell she's a teenager. And I said, my shtick is very weird. It's like this very strange, but like 15 years ago, I was someone in my life died, and he had a brother, and I'm trying to track down the brother. And she said, oh, my father lost a son. And so I'm like, oh my God, he does have a sister. She must have been born basically as just remarried, like maybe she was still alive when he passed away. I'm not sure. So I said, this is a little bit strange, but he's my a guardian angel, and I was told that he's looking after you too. And there's a pause. She goes, I know. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, she has her own relationship. And I said, can I please speak to your dad? I'm trying to get a hold of John. Again, I don't really know what I'm doing, but that's the story that I came up with, that I was going to speak to John. And she said, he doesn't speak to him. So I'm thinking, your son died. You have one other son and you don't speak to him. That's bizarre. Okay, so I hang up the phone. I call the mom. The mom was thrilled. Obviously, a mom who's lost her son never gets over that. And the fact that someone is still honoring or thinking. So I tell her that he's my guardian angel. And I was told that he has a whole group of people. She had a dream where Mark came to her and said, Mom, don't worry about me. I'm in charge of a lot of people, and I'm good. So I asked her if I can have a photo. She tells me she's going to go on vacation, and we hang up. And she gave me John's number, but I realized that that's not really, I didn't have anything to really say to the son. She ends up sending me a picture, and it was very weird. He was like on the beach with his, I'm like I guess I was like 31 now, and I'm looking at this little boy I was his age. So then it occurs to me to call the sister. And I said, I have this number. Please give it to your dad. This is John's phone number. And then a couple weeks passed after that, and she calls me, the mom. She's come back from vacation, and I had left her a message saying, thank you so much for sending me the photo. It's on my altar. And she called me, and she said, you won't believe it, that John spoke to his father. And I just felt like that was spirit working through me, through magic. And not me, but whatever moved through, was able to reunite this father to talk to his son. So it really just really confirmed that there's so much out there, so much magic, things that we can't see with our eyes. And it really validated my spiritual awakening. And things were very magical back then, like the synchronicities and stuff pre-Rona. So that's the story. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, everybody's like, whoa, that's deep.
Isn't it beautiful?
Right, it's beautiful. No, everybody is giving you a lot of love in the chat. Robin Hood says, hey, I love this lady. God bless her. Yeah, thanks, Robin. I appreciate that. And of course, she does too. 100%. Yeah, Ronnie. Alexa, hey, wow, that's an amazing story. Yeah, I thought it was valuable for us to tell the story again, because again, you and I did this show way back when, almost a year ago now. Of course, I had a very small channel. I was just beginning at the time, so nobody heard the story. And of course, I got deleted by YouTube with the whole channel. So I'm like, okay, let's start there again. So, oh man, Yeah, I had a few goosebumps as you were talking there too. That's pretty cool. That's
when
really cool.
when the session was happening with the teacher, and I was like prodding, and I was like, he doesn't have a sister.
Right.
And as woo as I am, I'm also a skeptic. And
Right.
And she said, you're wasting my time with your doubt.
Right.
She's like, we have better things to do. But because because of my investigative skills, like that propelled me
Right.
to call, and I got everything and more, meaning I got a picture, I got to speak to the mom, and got to reunite, and I got to remember that there's magic and no coincidences.
And have you had that same connection or feeling when you're listening to, call them what you want, your guides, your ancestor, your higher self, source, when you're asking too many questions? Do you have that feeling sometimes you're like, oh, Maryam, just stop it. Just go with it already. We told you 3 times, like, enough with this. Do you get that feeling sometimes? Or does it go silent? Like, how does it work for you?
Well, I don't have a clear channel with my guides. I certainly know that, having almost died and didn't, and I'm a cat now, I think I have 3 more lives left.
Mhm.
So I definitely feel protected and blessed, but I need to maybe quiet the noise behind me, but I don't have that direct access. How about you? Are you scorned by your guides?
Yeah, for me, it's okay. So I told this story for the first time on another show a couple of weeks ago, and I was surprised that I actually shared it. I think you and I had talked about this privately, but I hadn't really shared it, or at least I don't think I shared it on my channel yet. I get the hard voices sometimes, and those get very annoying. And when all of this started, how do I tell this story here? So let's just backtrack a little bit so it makes sense to the people who are just listening to this for the first time. So I used to read palms when I was a kid.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And it's funny, I didn't know what the lines meant. I would just, take people's hands, look at them, start staring, and go into this weird, like, not zooming in, but just kind of like off focus kind of stare, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I would just start saying stuff. And this was in the schoolyard. Maternelle. What's maternelle in English?
Kindergarten.
Kindergarten, yes.
Cute.
And so I started there. And anyways, I was already different at that age, call it that. And so hard for me to make friends. I've always been a little bit too woo for everybody, And so I thought that by reading hands, I would make friends. So that, that's how I started doing it. And at first it kind of worked, but then I realized, oh, these people aren't my friends. They're using me as a stage prop, as a, how do you call that, a parlor trick. Hey, Jean-Claude, come over here and read so-and-so. And it was fun for everybody. Didn't understand how important it was. And neither did I, man. I was like 5, 6, whatever. I was a kid.
Yeah.
But in this one instance, I read this girl and I said the word incest. And dude, I didn't even know what the word meant, but I heard the hard voice incest. So I say that out loud, and she looks at me and she gets really angry. No, that's not true. You're a liar. You're a freak, Jean-Claude. And then of course the whole schoolyard starts laughing, and you're. So I came back home crying that day. My mom was like, "What's going on?" I don't know, Mom. People are
said the word incest, and things went bad.
Oh my God! And so I kind of learned that doing that for people was not in my best interest, because, it would hurt. But I didn't know back then. I didn't have a filter what to say. I didn't have any tact whatsoever. It's not like today, So I kind of put those skills aside. On a personal level, I kind of put it aside. I never kind of looked at that anymore. It always helped me, like like in business and politics, to know what people were thinking around the room, like in the boardroom. Like, it was always a good skill. But it started again probably in earnest in 2008, 9-ish. So we're looking at 12 years or 13 years ago. And it started again, but with the voices. So I'm going back to your answer to your question about the voices and how I have that communication. And so I started hearing voices again that would lead me to say these things to people, but like impromptu things, inappropriate things at time, and mostly to strangers. And so it was difficult. And at that same time, I went to this high school reunion, and that girl who had been angry at me like so many years ago, I saw her kind of running through the room, cutting through the room to come and talk to me. And she was like, Jean-Claude. I'm like, oh, fuck, here it comes. Like, and she's like, oh, that thing you told me in the schoolyard? I'm like, yeah. She says, well, it was true, but you told me that in front of everybody. I was humiliated. You know what I mean?
Was this many years after?
Yeah. And she's like, well, I'm so sorry. Like, I was so mean to you and all that. So I'm like, oh, okay. So it kind of all started at the same time. I had that recognition from this girl, and also the voices started again. And for me, one of the big stories now to answer your question is when I don't listen to the voice, they get louder and louder to the point sometimes where I can't sleep. And so for me, that brings me to the story of Amélie. So you have the Mark, I have the Amélie story. Amélie was a client that had booked through one of my companies to do structural lighting, sound equipment, all that stuff, type of rental for her wedding. I had never met her, didn't know the person. She had booked through a wedding planner. And the whole week prior to her wedding, I kept getting the voice inside my head, JC, go film the wedding. And I'm like, what? Oh, no. JC, go film the wedding. No, I'm not doing it. I'm going to be doing a barbecue with the kids on Saturday. I'm not filming this person's wedding. I don't even know this person. We're not even contracted for that. No, I'm not going. Anyways, it got worse and worse and worse throughout the week where I couldn't sleep. And eventually I gave in. I said, okay, damn it, I'll go film the wedding. So I get there on Saturday morning. I have this feeling of urgency. Like I can't miss anything, so I get there early, I set up and basically film all day. And at the end of the night, it's like 2 a.m. Like beautiful wedding. Don't, nothing wrong with the wedding, but nothing happened. And in my mind, seeing as there was this crazy voice telling me, hey, you have to go film it, I thought for sure something crazy was going to happen. Yeah. And then of course nothing happens. So I'm like, I go back home. I'm like, okay, I'm really fucking losing it. I'm hearing voices. It doesn't make any sense. Sarah's telling me, don't be too hard on yourself, Jean-Claude. Maybe later it'll make sense, And I'm like, fuck, I don't know, man. It's like, this is a lot harder than I remembered as a kid. And so anyways, fast forward a month, Amélie calls me back, or maybe 2 months, but I think it's about a month. This is a while ago now. She says, oh, hi, Jean-Claude, it's Amélie calling. Do you remember me? I'm like, yeah. And of course I'm starting to sweat. Like, she's going to ask me why I filmed her wedding, and I'm going to have to tell her because I hear voices. I wasn't looking forward to the conversation, but I was going to be honest. If she was going to ask, I was going to be honest. At any rate, she says, oh, we had a beautiful honeymoon, Mark and I. And she's like, oh, right after the honeymoon, he went on this business trip with his colleagues and a different country. He ate something poisonous to him anyways, and he died right there on the floor at the restaurant. And she looks at me and she says, the only footage I have of my husband, you have it. Can I have it? So then it's like, oh, whoa.
Her husband died?
Died, right. So, gros coup de foudre, how do you say that in English?
Dis-le encore. What?
Coup de foudre?
Coup de foudre, lightning strike.
In a relationship, it's like
love at first sight.
Yeah, something like that with them. It's like an amazing love story, okay? And they had all these plans. I'm like, oh my god, these people are gonna rock the world. Like, it was an amazing wedding. Don't get me wrong. To me, it was like, okay, we do 200 weddings a year. Like, they're all the same to me. But anyways, so at that time, when she told me that, I'm like, oh, the hair just came up my. I'm like, oh shoot, oh my god. And so listen, it gets crazier. I go see a tireuse de cartes, card.
Tarot reader.
Yeah, clairvoyante, tireuse de cartes. She doesn't always do cards, but anyways, her name was Madame B. Okay. Very popular in Montreal way back when.
I may have gone. Was she downtown? Was she in Montreal? No.
Yeah, she used to be in Montreal. She used to do a show in Ottawa too on Rogers Community TV back in the 90s. Anyway, she's probably in her 70s now. Because when I met her, she was 60 something, just like 10 years ago when I had this story happen. Because I'm like, oh, I know somebody who can help me out with this. So I go see Madame B. And I think she lives now in Belleuil. Anyways, she probably still does what she does. She's so amazing. Anyways, I go see her, and as soon as I walk in the room, she kind of like, wow. She's looking at me like, what the fuck? Like, and of course she goes like, people don't look like you when they come to see me. Like, you're just, I don't know. I'm like, okay, you tell that to everybody. She says, no. You have this weird like rack on your head, like huge antenna, basically is what she was saying.
Wow.
And so I start telling her the story, this old psychic lady, and she says, mais Jean-Claude, t'es connecté à la clinique des morts. in French. She says, you're connected to the
Wow.
clinic of the dead.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to. It scares the shit out of me. Like I'm hearing voices. And so she says, okay, well, hold on. And she goes into this weird like trance and she says, okay, you have to listen to me. She says, it wasn't spirit. It wasn't your higher self talking to you. It was the Emily's husband, Mark. I'm like, huh? How's that happen? She says, okay, well, when you're dead, so let me the video. He comes back here to tell me to film here so that she can grieve all the way like over there. You know what I mean? So it's like, because she says when they're dead, there's no time. So
the voices is not your, is it always the case that your voices are not your higher self, but someone specific that might have passed?
half and half.
Okay.
So I could tell you some more stories, but just to finish on this,
Sure you can.
I was just like, this is when I learned, oh my God, this is so important. When I hear the voice, I'm compelled to act and know, oh, thank God I did now. This lady needed this footage, but it gets even worse. So this is a month after or 2 months after now at this point, and I tell Emily, okay, yeah, I'll give you the footage. And at that point, after that wedding, when nothing happened, I just took all the tapes, put them all in storage. I'm like, I don't need them. They're not mine. I wasn't contracted. I don't know what to do with them. So I just put them in storage. I never looked at them. So now I look at all the footage and I realize there's a term when you're doing wedding videos or photography, you chase the bride all day. It's the dress, the first kick, the kiss, the cake cutting, the ring, all that stuff, right? So I had all that, mind you, but I also had all his interactions throughout the day with his kids, with his mom, with his sister. Like, I'm like, I don't even remember filming the guy. Like, it's not something you would do out of hand just to film the groom, walking about the venue all day. Like, but I did for some reason. And of course, there was a lot in there that she needed to hear. So anyways, it was just so, that's when I realized, oh, wow. When you
it's a confirmation. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a confirmation. And when you say the voices, I will say that when for the people who don't know, when I was 29, I'm a proud 48. When I was 29, I got hit by a SUV at 30 miles an hour, 35 miles an hour, and broke many bones. And I had a metal rod put in my leg. At the time, I was reading a book called Old Souls. And it was this professor actually out of Montreal. He was studying in the States, teaching in the States, but originally from Montreal. And what he would do is, in a lot of Middle Eastern places where there was traumatic war, basically, let's say Lebanon, the souls will reincarnate. And there were several young women or girls or boys that would say, you're not my mom, or I was a mechanic. And so he went, and people can look up this book, Old Souls, and he would do cross-reference, and he'd say that the souls would reincarnate in same location, and he would find the person that he used to be, let's say.
Right.
And to me, it was very much a confirmation, because I was very fascinated with reincarnation. And by that time, I felt that I had been reincarnated. But it's interesting that at the time of getting hit, I was reading that book, Old Souls. And I really think that we need more of this magic to remind people that there's so much more that we can't see. I'm hearing a little bit of reverb. Do you?
Not on my side, but maybe bring your speaker volume down, not your mic, just your computer speaker. I think that's where you're getting it from.
I want to say that in the past couple of years, that definitely I'm clairaudient, that I can hear someone's voice. If I'm doing customer service, it's very useful. Can't help me. Robot. Right. Oh, this person has a good head on their shoulders. And I realized yesterday, JC, that I'm having and have been having a thing with time. Like, I am in the future. That's why I'm a visionary. It could be like, this is happening. Those vaccine passports, I saw them in 2016. So that's frustrating, because by the time the rest of the people, like with my company, oftentimes I'm in the future, and it's like, well, now you guys have caught up with me and it's too effing late. because you didn't make sense when I was telling you this is going to happen.
Right.
So because I'm in the future, I'm already in June. It's not a fun thing. I was saying, I'm back in 2013, time is collapsing. There's an abyss that's being created between the people that see and the people that don't. And now we have so I'm trying to reconcile, I reread The Power of Now to be here, but because I'm in the future, it's I don't know. I'm seeking help to not have this relationship with time. I was told, my girlfriend Alia, who you recently met, told me you can slow down time. So I don't know if you can relate to a sense of time, that things are moving so fast.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I go into that, we're 30 minutes in. For folks out there who are just joining in, I see the numbers are growing here by the minute. This is the first of a series entitled The Quantum Woo with Maryam Jean. And Maryam and I have decided to produce this series and share with you our spiritual growth journeys and our personal stories, so that hopefully you can connect and resonate with that, and you can share that with other people who are going through the same process at the same time. So hopefully building this community together makes sense for all of you. And thank you so much for being here, watching the show. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and to share your stories, just like this one here on screen. The person says, I can hear the difference between my higher voice, my higher self voice, and someone else's. I can recognize if it's from a loved one that has passed.
Wow.
I didn't have that when I started. All I knew was I had voices. And so it took me a while to go through the steps to determine whose voices they were, because oftentimes it's my own voice, right? I'm not speaking it, but it sounds like me. Other times, it sounds completely like somebody I don't know. So those are the freak out ones, because it's like, hey, whose voice is that in my head? But those are rare now. Back in 2000, I guess 12-ish, 13-ish, I decided to consciously make an agreement with my higher self, my guides, my ancestors, my team of angels, whatever you want to call them, to not do this particular work with the dead. It's not something I felt comfortable with, although I feel comfortable doing a lot of this work with people one-on-one when they're living, but the dead stuff I didn't really want to do. And so I asked them not to send that my way, unless it was one of those weird emergency type situations where I'm the only person in the vicinity of this person who's in grief or who needs this voice or whatever, then okay, but still I was very reluctant. And so far that's held pretty good. I haven't had those external voices that I don't recognize come in. And then after I went through discerning the higher self, the guides, the spirit guides and all of that. So that takes a while. And the trust factor, I'll get back to your time question. The trust factor is very important too, because at first you're like, well, somebody's telling me to do this. Well, is that thing for my highest good? Is that for that other person is good? You don't know. Like, I don't know. And a lot of times, mostly, it happens to me around strangers. So I had a lot of issue with all of that. So I was questioning. Another story that was similar early days, where I didn't act on the voice, and I'll share that story. So I was getting what's the word? Not guided, but strongly suggested. No, that's not the word. Compelled. Okay, compelled to go see this family of martial artists that I hadn't seen in maybe 20 years, and that I absolutely needed to go talk to them something about their family. And it was like, it's a weird, convoluted message. Okay, you see a family about talking about their family. I haven't seen them in 20 years. Like, fuck, this is complicated. So I was like, no, I'm not doing it. But I was arguing with myself. You could just see me having. And Sarah was looking at me like, dude. I'm like, I know, it's crazy. I know. I know. Okay. So at this time, I was already maybe a year into, maybe two years into taking my Reiki master level.
I've done that too.
That was teaching me was an ascended, like a very high up person. And she had been recommended by somebody else because nobody else could work with me, or words to that effect, at that level, that I needed to work with this particular person. And they had opened doors for me to be be able to be a student of this particular person. And so anyways, I told her that story at that time, hey, by email, okay, oh, I'm getting this weird thing. Can you help me out with that? What does it mean? Blah, blah, blah. And so I had it on record that I was supposed to go see this family. And 2 months later, I was looking through the newspapers, and lo and behold, car accident, 2 motorcyclists dead on the spot. It's the parents of this family. And so I'm like, oh, so I sent her a snapshot of this, like, dude, I was supposed to go see these people before they died, and I didn't go. Maryam, I was feeling so shitty. You know what I mean? Like, I'm laughing now, but still kind of crying. I'm like, I was feeling so bad because, like, oh, I missed this one. I should have went. Oh, maybe they had a message for their kids, or I fucked it up. Like, you know. And here Sarah was like, oh, GC, like, you're hard on yourself. I'm like, yeah, but I had the voice. I didn't go, and blah, 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 blah.
Well, you won't do that again. That's it.
Well, that's the thing. You eventually yeah. It still turned out okay. So I'll finish that story. I was like, okay, so now somebody was saying earlier, I think it was Ronnie, and she was joking with me. She says, I see dead people. You know that movie, The Sixth Sense or whatever?
Yeah, I see, yes.
So it's like, yeah, I hear dead people. Okay, before they die, apparently too. So anyways, in my mind now, I have to go see the eldest son of this family to relay something from the parents. And so he's going through his grieving process. And this was like a sudden death. It's not like these parents, the parents were sick or anything. They were healthy, like, you know, like I said, anyways. And so I have to go see this guy who I barely know. I probably saw him once 20 years ago. And I have to go tell him, hey, I'm kind of channeling your dad. Can we talk? You know, like, how do you start that conversation? And so I booked a personal training session with the guy. He's a Kung Fu master guy. So I booked a session to go train with him. And so the first day we sit down and he says, hey, choose a spot in the dojo. We'll sit down and we'll just talk. And so I kind of look around and I pick a spot and I sit down and he's looking at me.
Yeah. Why'd you pick that spot, JC?
Right. I'm like, I don't know why. He says, that's funny. That's where me and my dad usually do our meditations. That's the spot where my dad sits and nobody ever sits in that spot. So I'm like, oh, fuck, here it starts. So I started telling him this whole story. And he's like, dude, a psychic told me 2 months ago, this guy named Jean-Claude was going to come and see me, blah, blah, blah. I didn't know who the fuck it was. And then when I saw your email come in for a training request, I thought, maybe this is the Jean-Claude that the psychic told me was coming. So anyways, we ended up having this great relationship, and I shared with him like stuff from his father and his mom and all that stuff. So it worked out okay, but again, it's a learning curve to go through all of this and to know when to act, when not to act, and going back.
I want to say something on that point before you
go ahead. And then
we'll come back
to your time lapse thing.
That what I find when I've gone to California School of Psychics to learn how to ground, learn how to put roses down, protect, and because we are all psychic and we're all intuitive and it's a muscle that you need to practice. What I have found is you can find someone that's super talented. The mistake that they make is that they are interpreting through the lens of their bias. So I've gotten messages where, someone else is giving me a message and I know that it's being filtered through their bias because I feel responsibly. You get a message and it's like, I got this. I don't know what it means. Like, I'll give you a very quick example. This is not a message to someone, but I wanted to text someone and I wrote, hey, sweet pea. I'm like, why the fuck am I never say sweet pea.
Right.
I sent it. My mom used to call me that. So little things like that. But my point was, one, be mindful if you are seeing someone else that they might not be interpreting it properly. Two, that if you do a tarot read and maybe you've touched upon this in all your other shows, that for me, it's like you have free will. They are tapping into your energy at that moment. It can change and they are seeing what is presented at that moment, but it could be different in half an hour from now based on your energy. I don't know if you agree with that.
It makes sense, and it goes back to this picture we have for the show, this weird quantum entanglement. Like, it's all frequency driven. So when you're in that range, and that's what I was saying about the dead people too. If I'm the only guy in range that had the frequency and it's an emergency, okay, I'll try to do it, but I don't want to. But yeah, it makes sense. It really does. Mary is saying on the screen here, I argue with my guides too. I bargain sometimes. Yeah, I know. I've done that too.
I bargain too.
I don't feel comfortable doing the things that, yeah. I'll give you another story if you want. And we'll come back on the time thing too. I wrote it down. Going to what Mary was saying here, at one point through my whole process too, I'm a new JC, if you want to call it that, since 2008, 2009 on this path. Before this, I was deep into politics and economics, and that was my life. It's very, like, the gulf is wide between the old me and the new me. But in between there, in 2008, 9, 10, I was kind of like straddling both worlds. And I was having trouble being the new me. I'm sharing a lot personally here, but I was having trouble being the new me with the people who used to know me, right? You knew the guy in the funny suit and, the businessman, ruthless guy and all that. And I was having difficulty expressing this part of me to them. And I didn't like that about myself. I could do that with strangers. Man, that was the easiest thing because I love being me, this me, the 5-year-old me who's back into. Anyways, so I did this firewalking seminar thing. And so basically you walk on these hot coals and stuff, and you do meditation all day. A practice it's called from fear to power, walking from fear to power. And so the master is asking me, well, what do you want to burn? I'm like, what do you mean? He says, well, when you do firewalk, usually you want to burn something like, an old memory, regrets, something, or something you want to change, whatever. Just write it down. And so I'm like, oh, I know what it is.
I want to
the old me, or to be able to be the new me with my old friends. She says, okay, that's a valid point. And at this point, like, I'm telling this in front of the whole class, like, I hear voices, this is who I am, and I just want to be me now. I don't want to be the old guy anymore. And so anyways, because the old guy was wearing a mask, you know how it is, like corporate, all that stuff. And so it just wasn't me anymore. And so I said, all right, let's do that. So we go through the ceremony, walk on fire. Sarah's right behind me. She walks on fire too. Like a great night. It was really cool. And I heard it again through this weird voice. Okay, something like it had spoken, shall be, some words to that effect. I forget. It's in French, this one. And you'll be tested. So it's what they tested. I'm like, okay. So about a week later, the test happens. So I go to this political fundraiser. Or and as soon as I walk into the door, there's a lady way in the back screaming at me. And I'm like, oh, fuck, not here. It's going to happen here. And when I say screaming, I mean like screaming at me. She's not physically screaming, but to me, that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, shit, they told me I was going to be tested. Oh, man, now I'm here in the soup with all of my peers, political, cabinet members, the whole thing in this room. This is going to happen. So I walk over to this girl, I introduce myself, and I'm already sweating. It's like, oh, fuck, this is going to be horrible. And so I just said, mon nom c'est Jean-Claude, comment tu t'appelles? And she gives me her name. And the first phrase out of my mouth is, oh, so you're telling me you have 3 sons. And she kind of looks at me with a quizzical She kind of looks at the other person she's with. It's like, who is this guy? It's a stranger. You don't start with a conversation like that, right? I just go right to the point. And she kind of looks at me surprised. She says, wait, let me make sure I get this right. Oh, yeah. She says, no, sir. What was your name? Jean-Claude? I have 2. I'm like, oh, shit. I just got shot down. And so I'm like, I'm listening. So what do I do now? And again, now I'm really starting to, to sweat. So I'm like, oh, I'll try it one more time. So I'm like, well, you're really insisting that you have 3 sons. And then her face that was originally quizzical turns to anger. And she kind of looks at me, like leans in. No, I just told you I have 2. And by this time, everybody around, with their martini glasses, like they're all like, what's going on? Like the whole energy of the room's changed, right? And this lady is clearly now aggravated because of this tall jerk, named Jean-Claude. What the fuck is he doing? And so now I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be bad. So in my head, I heard 3. So JC, just do everything in 3. So a 3rd try. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You will have done your test. So I'm like, all right, I'll do this third time's a charm. So I said again, very lightly, you're insisting that you have 3 sons. And now her face, I was angry. She looks at me and she starts kind of like bawling. And she says, well, I had 3, but I just lost 1.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, And as you said that, it gets crazier now. And at this point, like everybody's listening on this.
But you're also, sorry, before you go on, you released something for her.
Yeah. Man, I'm just saying it now. Anyways, as she says, I just lost one. In my mind's eye, vision, whatever, feeling, all of it connected, I feel this lady appear next to me, to my left, and she's telling me, tell her I have him. She's the kid's in my arms. And so I'm telling that to the woman in front of me, and I'm describing the lady who I'm seeing, who's not physically there, but who I see and experience. And the lady in front of me clearly knows who I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Janine, whoever it is, but she knew who I was talking about, clearly. Anyway, she gives me a big hug, thanks you, and she bolts out of the room crying. And everybody stopped, the music stopped, and everybody's looking at me.
And here we have the new Jean-Claude.
Yeah, pretty much. And oh my God. And I was so nervous too. Like, what are people gonna think? Like, this is so awkward, it's so crazy. Anyways, so one of my really, really top confidants and mentors in the political space comes to me and says, you know, Jean-Claude, my wife, and I, like, we really believe in this stuff, and I can't say it out loud, like it would be a political liability, but good for you, man, something like that. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of hear dead people. That's what I do now. So anyways, I got tested, but again, it was one of those moments where you have that feeling, you have that huge force behind you. You have to use the discernment. But like you just said, this person needed to hear that to go through her grieving process. And it's unfortunate there's a political fundraiser, but that's how it goes. It's never pretty in a box with a bow on it. It's never like that. It's always, anyways, to me, the most inopportune times.
Yeah. Well, it's that is life, right?
Mm-hmm.
That I was going to say something, but I think it's important to, well, one, you learn to not ignore the voice, and to also not, like, this is what I'm getting, do what you will with it, rather than, I think many gifted people make the mistake of trying to interpret it. And we all have blind spots and we all have biases. As hard as I try to not have those, that's being human. You were saying, before you answer the time question, that before I had this health issue that just happened, and Elisa, the midlife revision, before I left for Florida, I'm being called to leave San Francisco, and I was having this tremendous pain in my ovary, and the voice, I said, please, like, just have this pain go away, and I promise I will go. I will go. So for whatever reason, all those other things happened in Florida with the skin issue, the Steven Johnson syndrome. But what's my point here? I think listen to the voice, because if it's not in this life, if you don't, that's the thing. If you don't learn the lesson in this life, do you keep on wanting to come back and do it over and over again? That's why, having had a near-death experience and being given another chance where I could have been in a wheelchair, easy, brain dead, that I don't want to waste time. And that's why, let's say in this phase of my life where I'm there's so much indecision because of the Rona and what's happened in the past year, I don't want to be a mediocre human. And I want to make the most of this life, even though I feel there's evil forces that have tried to hijack or snuff people's spirit. I will say that. That's how I feel. There's no time to waste, and time is collapsing, and life is so short to not spend time on petty bullshit.
Yeah. No, I agree. Wow. And I mean, that was a big part for me too. Again, 2008-9, I was going through this huge transformation in my life, and I'm like, I don't have time to wear the mask anymore. I don't want to. And of course, I make less money today than I did back in those days, the old JC. But I didn't have the love in my community, in my family, in my friends, and the Nakashisman, like the fulfillment that I do now, because that person's smile and that hug, like that's worth. You can't put a price on that. It makes your life much more. I don't know how to say it even. Worth living, and I think that's where it's where I want to be in those moments, and realizing that I could be of service to people at that level, and to make that much change. It really struck me, and the sense of responsibility too that came from it, the sense of time, again going back on your question of time, to me it's like time's accelerating, so it means that we have less time to do the things that we think we have, and that's what I see right now. There's a huge acceleration of this awakening process, and like you said, it's connected to the people who are living in two different times. You and I are living 6 months, a year, 2 years ahead of a lot of people. It's just the way it is. And even for the last 10 years, I didn't understand that until maybe a year or two ago, that's what was happening. I'm like, I'm already here with crypto. It was years ago. Nobody understood. I'm already here with, all of these events, and everybody thought I was crazy. I'm like, oh, it's just natural to me. I see it. But I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but it goes back to this idea of eventually, and maybe we can get into this topic, this separation that is going to occur, might occur, is occurring right now on the planet, right? If you talk about the Bible separating the wheat from the chaff, or whatever it's called, I'm not sure the right translation, but at some point, you and I have to stop intervening on the people who don't live in our world, because we're crashing theirs and we're making them uncomfortable. And for all we know, that's the life they chose. That's their soul contract, their mission, and they came to experience exactly that. And when we intervene in that frequency, we're changing or altering perhaps their life, and it's not our responsibility to do that. And vice versa, those people are intruding on ours, on yours and mine, because we feel that we're dragged down by these people who don't see the present as you and I see the present, because we live in the future, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so, it does. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so where do we go from that? And first of all, Lisa, thank you so much. She says, I love hearing JC's stories. Curious about it. We always hear his guests, but never you, JC. Okay, so yeah, and that was the point of having this show with Maryam. Maryam and I are very good friends. I feel comfortable with her, and I think it's time to have these conversations. And this is where I want to bring this channel way more woo than it was last year. And so it's time. So the topic of time. But what are your thoughts on this idea of this separation that's occurring, or going to occur, or has already occurred? Again, talking about time.
I think when I was saying there's when this is 2013, an abyss is being formed. That's what would come to me, the words that would come to me. And now I see it, and I think, let's say this last year foray into politics, it's always like the story of the honeybee, me pollinating by myself, but really wanting to be part of something bigger. So I'll just answer for me personally that in this year, not only I feel like I've really tried to put information, unfortunately it's censored. That's one. Two, getting kicked out of CPAC when their theme is canceled, plus the midlife revision, that all of it where I am is, my message is, it's time to put down your oxygen mask and save yourself. Because I am wanting to create the life that I see and make the most of it. And what are those important things, rather than try, like Vivian Kubrick called me yesterday, and God bless her, like she sits down and shows people, like, don't get the jab. And she really, and I feel like I'm past that. Of course, if someone's there and open, of course I will share. But I feel that, there's no, you don't want to be, you don't want to have me in your club, or you don't want to, it's time to just focus on, and who do we resonate with? I mean, you can answer for yourself, but the people that come to my channel, the people that are in my Telegram group, there are people that know that this is spiritual warfare. These are people that know that heart connection, that consciousness, that spirit, that's where it's at in the end. You can't take any of this shit with you, right? And so life is short, and we are focusing on solutions. By my message now is, as a also functional medicine consultant, it's steeped in positive psychology, where the message is mindfulness. How do you cultivate mindfulness? How do you cultivate a relationship with your body that you're like, oh, started ovulating 5 minutes ago, to that extent, and create, develop your sensitivities, and be in that. A lot of women or men, they're in their male, it's polarities, right? I'm not talking about gender or whatever. I'm talking about the energy of like, oh, a lot of women have to go, go, go. And if you look at human design or whatever, I think everyone can benefit of like, just be and be in your center and allow the things to come to you to a certain extent. Of course it's balanced. So you have to, whoever's listening, does that resonate with you, or do you need to be more active because you're too passive? But for me personally, my message is to be and attract, and we become magnets, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where, when you're in that frequency also, and somebody above was talking about authenticity, it's off the buffer now, but when you're in that frequency, you attract a whole bunch of new people that resonate to that too. And at first you think, oh, I'm going to lose some of my old friends, and you're worried about that, and it's the boyfriend, the girlfriend, or whatever, and then you realize, yeah, maybe that's okay, because the new people coming into this frequency, they come to you like magnets. Cliff Highs in the chat. Magnets. Did I hear magnets? Love you, Cliff.
And everything I'm saying is, I'm reminding to myself, I'm not like being preachy, because I am very much a go-getter and make shit happen. And I'm in like I'm in someone's face. And if someone's like, well, this is how, I didn't come from privilege. this is not my original country. How do you think I got to where I am? It's because of my persistence. Right. So it's easy also for us to judge others. And I see a lot of projecting on, let's say, even politics or stories that are happening, but we individually can be victim of projecting. So it's really about, to me, keeping yourself in check. And unfortunately, I don't know, they say you can't rehabilitate narcissists, and we should, but I could definitely do a quantum wuxia on narcissism versus empaths. We each have our own role, and it's not what happens to you, as I've said before, but it's what you make of it. And that's my message for mindfulness. And how do you cultivate a relationship with your spirit, your higher self? How do you invoke more magic, white positive magic?
Right. Well, as you were going through this process, how was it for you at the beginning, to the awakening process? Because you just mentioned how you now attract people who are at this frequency, but that also means that you might have repelled some people that were no longer in that frequency. I just explained how it was for me to go from the old JC to the new JC. How was it for you? Like, relationship-wise, family-wise, work colleagues? Because I'm sure a lot of people now who are going through this right now, they're probably thinking, oh man, I'm losing all my friends. I lost my family. I feel alone all the time. Like,
but is that because of the circumstances of the Rona, or your political views, if you no longer side with the left or the right? I mean, that's more, it's not, I don't think I've had, my very close friends that I find dear to me. Like, I have my girlfriend visiting right now. We're all super sensitive, whether we're environmental indicators, like, that's everything else has gone to the wayside. I mean, I have one friend that I've known in other lives who I met in kindergarten, and who's still, in my life, and I can relate to. But yet, so right now it is lonely. Let's say I were to go to the jungle. I mean, it's no shortage of woo, right? If anything, it's too woo for me. It's too hippie. So I don't know, to answer your question. I feel it depends on what are you determining losing friends, because I've certainly lost. It's more because now they're like, I got my Moderna shot. I have nothing to say to you. Can't talk to you. So that's,
Right.
it's a different, it's not based on spiritual. Even that person who I'm referring to that got their Moderna is very spiritual with themselves or. So je sais pas comment te répondre.
Well, whether that's politics or the Rona, it still comes out to this spiritual warfare that we're in. So we're still being affected at that level. But my question was more, and you've answered it, but I thought maybe going more back in time to when you were going through this awakening process and seeing things and having people think maybe, hey, that person's crazy, even before Rona and in all the research you're doing now. But how was it to maybe go through that transformation of being the old Maryam into like the corporate world that you had before, whereas the ones you have today? Like, how was that transition, and how did you feel when you started feeling that first, I guess, burning feeling of being ostracized or removed from the clique because of your thoughts and your ideas? Like, and how do you consolidate that to where you are today? Would you do it all again the same way, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I would do it. I try not to have regrets. Excuse me. I feel I've always been kind of a loner. Right. And I've always been a loner. And often, let's say the girls would get together, I was never really with them. I was always on the periphery. If we went out to a club when I was 14, Maryam was up on the stage by herself or on the speaker dancing. If let's say my girlfriend here was here with Zach and we were watching Mad Max again, I've already watched it. They didn't. Well, I leave and I'm working on my George Floyd book. So if we're at the drum circle in Costa Rica, I stay for 10 minutes and then I'm walking by myself listening to information. So I'm very much a loner, I feel. And the friends that I've had in the past 10 years, they are still my friends. And through the Rona, most of them are awake. And I sigh some relief that I can relate to them. And so I know a lot of people, maybe because of Vanishing of the Bees or making a movie, but it's very few in my clique. And as far as my spirituality, like the language that you and I speak when we're just connecting, or you spoke to Alia, she's become a very dear friend in a short matter of time. We all speak that same language, speaking in the language of energy and spirit. Like yesterday I went and I got a new Ganesha.
Hey, let me bring your Ganesh a little bit bigger. Okay, bring it closer to the camera. Nice.
It is Ganesha.
Lisa is
sorry,
saying,
it's backwards.
What's that?
It was backwards, my Ganesha. If anything, I want to further cultivate my practice of meditation and the magical, because in this past year and almost half now, it's gone down the toilet in a lot of senses. Maybe it's because I don't have a garden or a green space right at the moment. Even when I was in the jungle, all we were doing was covering the news and sharing it and trying to get into the information and trying to figure out what the F was happening. Right. So I'm trying to return to that in a new way, maybe return to plant medicine, which I don't know how you feel about plant medicine, but it can be very powerful, and using different tools.
Well, we can do a whole show on plant medicine. I love that. Sure. And speaking of all of these shows, again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here tonight on this first inaugural broadcast of the Quantum Woo. Where did it go? Why do you keep getting to that? There you go. Here's a poster. The Quantum Woo, where both Maryam and I are sharing some of our personal stories with you guys along our path, and hopefully that makes sense to you guys. So we wanted to ask you, the audience, what type of topics would you like us to cover next time? So if you want to give us ideas, you can put them in the live chat now. But if you're also watching this on replay, please put those ideas into the comment section below. and Maryam and I will look at them throughout the week here to inspire us for the next upcoming show. Speaking of next upcoming shows, I do want to at least thank the people tonight on this PayPal tip jar. So thank you so much, everyone. Barkenwood's Craft, thank you so much. That's a really amazing donation. Love you guys. Hugs from North Cal. And by the way, the tips for this episode tonight are being shared equally between Maryam and myself. So I encourage you to be generous and support my friend here on this new endeavor of ours. Marie Lagacia, thank you so much. And she says, I enjoyed the show. I keep wishing I could hear my late husband who died last June. I could feel that. Leslie, thank you so much. Yves Langlois, merci. Wendy, Jim Montgomery. Jim, you guys are amazing. And I know I speak I speak for a lot of us. Oh, thank you so much, Jim. I appreciate that. Cindy, Paola Crawford, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. You make it every time I see these donations, I'm already like, wow, you guys are amazing. And it makes it really bearable to be out here. And even though Maryam and I have both gone through the process of being deleted and censored more than one occasion, actually, for Maryam. So it's hard being out here. And we're completely viewer funded. So if you want to hear more shows about this, please.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate that.
I want to share some ideas that I have for the show.
Okay, vas-y.
So yeah, definitely plant medicine, whether it's ayahuasca. I don't know what your experience with, but Aya was very instrumental in healing. So all sorts of plant medicine. You do a lot of tarot shows, so I don't think there's a shortage of that. Although I do know tarot, and I used to do it for people, but then I didn't feel confident enough, so I stopped. I would love to do a show with, maybe your audience knows Bernard Gunther, we can do a show on love bites and hyperdimensional entities, and he really introduced me to hyperdimensional entities and a love bite we could do a show on parasites, whether it's energetic or real parasites. There's also a friend of mine, Ryan Parks, who's a fire dancer, but who was MK Ultra and has now learned how to spin fire, and he has a crazy story. I haven't interviewed him yet, but he's someone that I'd like to bring on the program. And I definitely do a show, being Egyptian, on Egypt, or talking about curses, for instance. I mean, it's endless, the fun things that we can do, especially if I have the backdrop of the jungle.
Yeah, that'd be cool. And speaking of Egypt, I want to get your thoughts on all of this. I know your friend Alia, you and myself were talking about this last week. I think it was on Facebook, and seeing the ritual that was going behind the scenes here.
Yeah.
22 mummies were escorted to their new resting place. We could do a whole show on that. I'm excited about Egypt too, because I feel that there's connections now being made from the past, again, talking about time, to today, with all of this great awakening that's taking place and the rising of the divine feminine. So I like all your topics. Everything there seems amazing. The plant medicine, for sure. I had done a few shows on that last year. Of course, they were deleted with the old channel, but I'd like to revisit a lot of that.
Have you done Aya?
No, I have not. My friend Joe was supposed to bring some on our next trip to New Mexico for Dave and myself, but of course, because of COVID there, that last trip never happened. But he had bought some and had gone through the experience and shared that with me on camera here during one of our episodes. So I'd like to talk about that. And what else do you have there? Yeah, I love the love bites, the parasites. Very interesting. I'd like to talk about developing your sixth sense, whatever that may be.
Yeah, me too.
The tagline for this show originally was discover your spiritual superpower and develop self-mastery. And to me, the spiritual superpower, if you look at Lord of the Rings, I would call that, hey, find your magic, develop your magic. Whatever it is, we all have magic. Focus on that, develop that, and become, of service to others with it. And if we all do that, can you imagine how we can transform the world very, very quickly? So I'd love to get more into that. And I'm open to suggestions from the audience too, like any other show along these lines. And of course, we're still doing the other shows on my channel. But this one was going to be a little bit more up close and personal with Maryam and myself. I think this for a first episode was pretty cool. I'm happy to have shared what we shared, and we can talk about sex too. Some of the practices we're just talking about Egypt here too. There's a lot there from the Taoist point of view. Although still here on YouTube, I'm not sure about some of the censorship. That's the only thing that's going to maybe curtail a little bit some of our topic list. But on that note, I'm working on a different option here, and I'll be ready in the next couple of days here. I've been working on that since last December on how to be able to produce shows, have them monetized somewhat, because of course we're no longer monetized here on YouTube, and we all need to put bread on the table for our kids. So there has to be an exchange of energy there, but have a server where I can share these videos in a complete uncensored format. So I'm very, very close to launching my first trial of that here in the next couple of days. So stay tuned for that. That'll be interesting. And there maybe we can really let loose and go at it, all of these topics that the audience wants to hear about.
Love bites, when we get into the topic of love bites, I mean, that definitely is sexual. And I remember speaking to Bernard, and he's like, STDs, sexually transmitted diseases. How about sexually transmitted demons? Mm-hmm. And I was like, whoa. And just to tell your audience, it's like that since, why these donations help is that since January 6th, I have lost a processor on my site that sells CBD. So it's been now 4 months. And also the stories that I do write, if you want to check out any of my work, let's say on Activist Post, you can see 30 reports, one for every day of the George Floyd trial. And just to keep in mind that Activist Post, which is connected to Zero Screw Us, they don't have a budget because they are also censored. But I continue to write because I am a journalist through and through. So I appreciate your audience, and every little bit counts, because it's not easy asking for help, financial help at our age.
Yeah, I know, and I always find myself struggling to ask to, but I find the PayPal tip jar works well. People can see the link and they can support you. And I think this other way that I want to do it also is going to be like on a pay-per-view type of format. And not expensive. I mean, cup of coffee, less than a cup of coffee, but just something for the episode and for all the time. But here too, what's happening is on this new platform that I'm going to put together, I actually have to go pay for the server space. I actually have to go pay for the bandwidth and that's going to be, of course, a variant on how many people watch the videos and how many times it's downloaded and all that stuff. So there's hard costs associated to that. So not only now, it's not just my time that I'm not being paid for on YouTube, but also now the hard costs attached to producing these shows. So at some point, hopefully we'll get the censorship issue sorted out here, but maybe not. Maybe we're just going to have to look at all these different platforms, and this is where we're going with all this.
Yeah.
That's the way it is. Hey, thanks, Polly Peace. That's a great show. Hit those like buttons.
Hello.
That. Darla, merci beaucoup. Darla's from, I think she's from Montreal, or
really?
Maybe, yeah, I think she's from Montreal. Darla, in Quebec. I'm not sure if she's Chute à Blondeau. No, that's Ontario. Or Celebrate.
Can we ask if people have questions?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Oh, somebody had a question for you earlier. I saw it on the screen. Okay, so guys, please do put your questions in high caps here. It'll help me bring them out. The first one was for Maryam. Somebody was asking you, you said something about being reincarnated. Do you know one of your past incarnations? That was the question.
Yeah, I know that I've known for a while that I'm an old soul that's died young, and that one of my challenges was to go into old age, because I have a very interesting relationship with death, and I don't think it's the norm. Like, I just had another uncle die. I'm just not, of course I would grieve, but it depends on the circumstances. Anyway, so I know that in my past lives, I've had for a long time a fascination with mental health and the intersection. I had a friend who hung herself. Interestingly, when she was a journalist like me. When she joined the spiritual psychology program in California, in Los Angeles, and I was interested in the intersection between a spiritual awakening and a mental breakdown. because it seems she had a spiritual awakening and a mental breakdown, and then they gave her a whole bunch of medications, and then she hung herself. So I had seen, when I was working with this lady, I remember seeing seeing a life where I was not very nice. And I remember the notion of like, wow, I wasn't always a good person. And then, of course, followed by like, yeah, of course, if you've had tons of life, how do you grow? And reconciling with not being a good person. I've had past lives told to me, like I was told that I was a malevolent queen or ruler in Egypt, and that one of my partners we were brother and sister and having an ancestral relationships, as the pharaohs did back then. And the last life, working with Elisa, who's been a guest and who you gifted me a session with her, I was trying to understand a relationship or the angst around it, and I saw, I'll tell you this, we were going through the lives and I'm going with it, and later Elisa said that I did a good job, but while I was doing it, I'm like, I'm pretty crappy at this. And she tells me to fast forward, and I was a writer, and I see a typewriter, and I see this colonial, like Spanish, big tall ceilings, and I'm writing, and she's like, who's with you? And I'm like, I'm alone again. Another life that I'm die alone. So I mean, it's just what thought. And I've seen a life of hanging myself, or definitely suicide in other lives. But to have distinct, very fleshed out, no, I have feelings and senses. And I remember being in kindergarten or grade 1, and the light is coming through this orange wooden desk, and I had this thought, and it's a very simple thought, but it was, if I'm not here, I'll be somewhere else. And it was, even though it's a very simple thought, maybe it doesn't make sense, it meant a lot of sense. And I was only like 6 or 7. And that was like, oh, we come back again. Then later finding out they took out the Council of Constantinople, but all the literature about reincarnation, because that would allow someone, they couldn't control the people if they knew, oh, I just come back next life and whatever. So I don't know about you, JC, if you have a better recollection.
No, actually, I have a lot of dreams of past lives, which I'm sure they're very visceral. I can smell, I can taste, see clarity, and it's often the same dreams are running over and over again. Yeah.
Like if you're in the same part, or it continues, or you go, because I go back to a familiar place in my dream.
Same part. Yeah, it's always the same part. And often, I often die by the sword. And at first, as a kid, I would dream this, and I would be very frightened. And as my life progressed, and having these same dreams, I'm like, okay, here it comes. I'm gonna go around the corner. I'm gonna get, this sword up my chest or whatever it is. You kind of get desensitized to it. But there's a few.
It's like Westworld, right?
Yeah, actually, guys, if you haven't seen that series, go check that out. Is that still on Netflix? I think it was on Netflix. Westworld. Yeah.
I think is it Netflix? I think it's HBO.
Oh, I probably saw it here in Canada. I believe it was Netflix. I'll have to ask Sarah. It could have been Crave TV.
It's so poignant.
Oh, yeah.
It's poignant to me.
We could do a whole show on decoding that. Okay, so there's another question here. Julie Putman is asking you, what are your favorite books?
My favorite books. Well, I'm always reading 4 or 5 different books at a time. The Great Reset by Klausi. No, my favorite books. There's this one book by Mira Bartok, and I'm going to forget the name right now, but I found the theme in many of the memoirs. So in many of the memoirs, it's someone, I'll give you an example. In one story, it's this man who gets a young guy gets a scholarship to India, and he takes the malaria, malaria, not HCQ medication, which gives psychoses. And he literally wakes up in a psych ward, and he has all his memories scratched, and eventually they come back, but never that last year. And his family finds him. In another one, she has something with her brain, and she's repiecing her life. So it's memoirs that have to do with memory and kind of being a third person, like in that movie Adaptation, like Charlie Kaufman. That's like one of my favorite movies. Yeah, let's see, Mira. I think her nickname was B. Memory Palace. Yeah.
This one here?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I befriended Mira. I just big fan of, because when I write, let's say you read articles on George Floyd, it's very I'm just reporting. But in my other pieces, I'm really playing with words and cadence, and so I have an appreciation for weaving words together and playing with them. So Mira's, I have others, but they're not coming to my memory right now.
I'm like you. I'm reading 4 or 5 books at the same time here. Some for my personal interest and some for the next upcoming interviews. I just did this book review with Carrie Cassidy, The Rebel Gene. That was just fascinating.
What's it about?
Well, it's about the ET influence on the evolution of planet Earth and how what they're trying to do in her book, these ETs, is to stamp down on this rebel gene or this God gene that we have, so that we can be easier controlled and manipulated and so forth. So she goes through the whole series of the black projects, the abductions, the treaties with the governments, history of humanity, Kundalini awakening, how they siphon off this Kundalini energy. Again, try not to get this show barred too much, but go see that episode if you haven't already seen it. And I'm reading now. I had already done this book review here, Gifts from the Stars, from Elena Denon, and that was a 3-part series. A really good book if you're interested in who's who in the ET world and what their agendas might be. That might be a very interesting book for you. Right now, I'm rereading this guy here, After Disclosure, by Richard Dolan. I originally had read this a couple of years back, maybe 7 or 8 years ago. I had bought a signed copy from Richard at one of his conferences, and I lent it to somebody and never came back. So you know how it is when you lend books. Anyways, I had to buy.
I don't lend books anymore.
Right.
Not that like most of them are on Kindle, but.
So anyways, I'm hoping to have Rich Dolan on because of this idea of disclosure now that's in our face. We're on this countdown, and the Pentagon's, slowly leaking evidence here of this whole disclosure and what it all means. And we're on this trajectory for June. So I'm hoping to be on time with this book and to have him on to talk about that too. That'll be interesting. Personal book.
Shamanic. Sorry, I will also say when I was making Vanishing of the Bees, and we ended up interviewing Simon Buxton, and he wrote The Shamanic Way of the Bee. And there's this esoteric, I guess, group called the Path of Pollen. And so they revere the honeybee, but they also revere the lemniscate, the infinity sign.
Okay.
The infinity sign. And so I highly recommend it. I'll just tell this part that it's a story of him being in schooled on the path of pollen. And one of the exercises that he does, it takes 24 days to make a drone, 21 days to make a worker bee, 16 days for a queen. And they all have different energies, especially if you look at Rudolf Steiner and biodynamics and esoteric meanings. In any case, he does a retreat for 24 days where he's only eating pollen and honey. And his teacher puts him in this hexagonal, small little cell, like making a bee. So when he enters, he is a man entering the world of the bee. But after 24 days, he exits as a bee, reintegrating in the world of man. And when you would go, he would have retreats. You would have your eye mask and wear it. He used the Alex Gray. By the way, Alex Gray has an eye mask. I don't know if you've heard. It's not very comfortable. But you would have these queen retreats where you're living in darkness for, I think, 16 days. Mm-hmm. And you have to do everything in darkness to develop your other senses. So that's another book that I recommend.
Yeah, I've read parts of that too, and some
Really?
Taoists have this dark room technology where they're explaining similar processes of putting you into the dark and
Oh,
sensory
yeah.
deprivation for at least 6 days, and the idea is to trick the body into producing endogenously more DMT, and so it brings you on that connection to source without any of these external drugs that you would have to take, as it were, with plant medicine. So, yeah, I'd love to do an actual
Like
show.
a Vipassana in the dark?
Yeah.
Yikes.
Mhm. So, yeah, we could do a whole show on that. Wendy is asking you, Maryam, how is your healing progressing? And
Thank
as
you,
we were
Wendy.
talking earlier, I brought this video up. This was the result of that quantum hypnosis session with Elisa Herrera. So if you want to go see that episode, folks, where she talks about some of these past lives and these reincarnations, if you want more details, go check out that episode. Yeah, that was
So,
really cool. So
so I
how's it
would
going,
say,
Maryam?
yeah, I shed. I had all these blisters, and it's healing. The rash is almost completely gone on my feet. There's still little spots, but never let a crisis go to waste. Which is, I've now asked my doctor, and I have a letter that says I have fallen prey to Stephen Johnson and cannot do antibiotics or vaccines.
Oh, you got
So
your get out of jail free card. That's
if I
awesome.
get a jab, I might die. It's for reals, yo.
Yeah,
So
for reals, y'all. That's
yeah.
awesome. For those who want to ascend, no, for those who don't ascend, well, they go around the reincarnation wheel for another 26,000 years. How do you want to tackle that one?
Why 26,000? Is that the Kali Yuga? Why 26,000?
Well, I think that's what the person is referring to here, generally speaking. Yeah. Well, I'll take a first jab at this one, Maryam.
Please do.
I'll take the first jab. No, I won't.
I'll wear my hat while we do this.
Oh yeah. Put your hat. That's cool. So Ronnie. I believe what's happening now and the choices you're making today, you're galvanizing for this next cycle, the long cycle. And so we have the opportunity now, I believe, with where we are in space, the energies, maybe it's a time factor thing too, all merging at the same time. I think we are called now as humans, and we have universe at our back in sense that is conducive energies for us to close and cut some old karmic loops. And for those people who are doing the work right now of doing that and who have been on that path, I believe they're choosing a very different new cycle ahead of you. And for those who are not, and this might go from an earlier questioner, I think they will be doomed to repeating that same cycle, but in the same mirror as the old one. And so I hope that answers it. But I believe right now, and speaking to a lot of people who come on the show, I believe right now a lot of us are doing that work to go through that crucible or that little event horizon to get to that other side here. And for that, you need to do the work and really, really go to that deep core wound and do a lot of cutting. And sometimes it's difficult and it's scary, and a lot of people don't want to do that work. But at this time around, I think what I'm hearing, at least internally from my guides to my own knowing, is that we're choosing now, and what we're doing is galvanizing this next very big cycle. So this is broken down in different cycles, but that whole loop in front of us right now, what we do today, every movement, every decision we do today is galvanizing us on that path. And that also brings me, let me bring this, see if I can find it very quickly here. The Hopi Indians had this prophecy, and it had to do with these two different lines or trajectories. Okay, I got the picture here, so let me bring that up. And so we're at this point here. Actually, let me bring that up a little bit more. Can I zoom that in? Hello, come here. I believe we're somewhere here as the story goes in that F section. We can either go back to that same old trajectory, or we can jump to a higher one here, and you can see the stair stepping.
What is this we're looking at? What is this?
This is in the four
Oh,
corners.
Hopi. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And so This is a show I can do on if we brought that. What was that name of that elder? Something Mahuti. He was on the Discovery Channel. He's one of the elders that holds a lot of these knowledges, and maybe we can get him on the show and to talk about that. But anyways, Ronnie, that's a great question. That's how I would answer it right now. So it's not a question of ascending, don't ascend. I'm not sure that's phrased the way I would, but the idea now that we're at this critical point of choosing which of these two lines or these two cycles before us, either that 20 some thousand years of what we used to go through, that same thing, or a new higher one. And we've had these opportunities sporadically through evolution of this planet, and we're at this one right now. So we are living in this critical time. I hope that answers the question, even though it was convoluted. What do you think, Maryam?
I'm not able to speak. Are we in the Kali Yuga? Yes. I don't know about how long we are, where we're at. I mean, I did find one Molly comment very interesting about, you guys have seen what's the show with Jennifer Aniston's former Justin Theroux, the show where a whole bunch of people disappear. Do you know what show?
I didn't see that.
The Leftovers.
The Leftover. Oh, okay. I haven't seen that. No.
Very interesting. Very, very. I love sci-fi.
So there's debate. To your question, there's debate actually as to where we are, depending on some of the graphs. And of course, we don't know what time we are actually in. If you study our calendar, there's evidence that our calendar has been messed with, and that there might be 1,000 years missing or added to our calendar. Because if you look at the history in China and the history from the Roman Empire, they don't line up exactly. So there seems to be duplications of kingships and rules that just don't add up. And this could be a whole other show. And so we're not sure exactly if we're in 2021 or if we're in 1021. There's something weird there. And there's a whole connection to the old Earth maps too, and how some of the time doesn't match on the maps as well. So there's something there. So we can actually be in the Dwapara Yuga right now. We don't know, or we're a little bit later, still behind in the Kali Yuga. So, again, this could be another topic for a whole other show. I love the question, though. Thank you so much.
Look at Molly's. If you go up, I can look for it. Oh yeah, Scott says I love Leftovers. I like Justin Theroux. He's so cute. Okay, beautiful big brown eyes. I don't know if I can't find Molly's. Oh, here. How do we know if the world already passed into 5D, or are we the ones left behind? I really don't think the world is fully in 5D based on appearances. What do you think, JC?
Are you reading that from the chat, the question? Where'd you get that from? Oh, okay. Because I'm still holding the chat a little higher. I was trying to go in sequence. That's okay. So what was I was just reading the last one here. So what was your last question?
It was quite high up. I scrolled up.
Okay.
How do we know if the world already passed into 5D? Or are we the ones left behind?
First of all, if you're asking that, you're probably, how do I say it? You're probably not the ones who are going to be left behind. The ones who are left behind don't even have a clue to ask the question, one. And two, I don't believe that's happened yet. So we're not there. And three, I think we'll know it. We'll absolutely know it. It'll be such a huge demarcation from where we're at now that it will just, you wouldn't even ask the question and be like, oh, holy shit, what just happened? And I don't know when that event is either. If that's the follow-up question to that, I don't know. All I do know is, going back to these yugas and these cycles of time, is that I very much wish to have a better cycle in front of me than the last ones. Like Maryam, I know about some of my past incarnations, and they weren't always pretty. So, I think we're all trying to grow up as humans, and that's what we're being asked to do. And that was part of the book, The Rebel Gene, too, going into that adulthood, remembering who we are, the magic that we have, and the responsibility that comes with that, with joining our call them our space brothers and sisters. That's a whole other book in our chapter of our life. So yeah, again, really exciting times in front of us. GS, have you seen any mental or spiritual side effects from the new jab?
We can't talk about that, but
Yeah.
yes.
Sorry, I was reading that out loud. But yeah, no, that's a taboo topic out here. We're gonna get our video deleted, man. Missy Matrix.
Get your life back in one shot.
Yeah, Missy Matrix. I'm loving the show so much. I'm a French Canadian now living in the US. Grew up in Sherbrooke. And man, love that. Merci beaucoup à vous deux. Merci.
Merci. I mean, in the same way, just even reading the word Sherbrooke. I mean, I haven't, Missy, I'm in China, San Francisco, so I haven't visited Montreal or seen my mom or dad in many years. Yeah.
Do you believe in distance healing? Darla from, where did she say she was from? She answered earlier.
I definitely
Valleyfield. She's from Valleyfield. Not far
from where?
Valleyfield.
Where's that?
Darla? She's from Valleyfield. Oh, southwest Quebec.
Oh.
So it's just on the border with Ontario.
Not Villeneuve.
Villeneuve? I don't know where Villeneuve is.
Oh, Villeneuve, c'est à Montréal.
Oh.
Yeah, my French is so rusty. It's such a shame. It's my first language. But it's my first language, but I don't think in French. You think in French, right?
Yeah, I think in French. And usually when it gets late at night and we're doing interviews, I'm still thinking in French and having to translate as I do the show. Sometimes I'm like I need a level 4 diagnostic on my universal translator. Okay. Let me see. I think
China-fornia. It's an original. It's a meme. I have a lot of them.
Oh, Ben. Oh yeah, RH negative. Yeah, that's a good topic for.
Yeah, I'm an O negative.
You are? Oh.
Yeah.
I want to do a whole show on that. Thanks, Ben. That's a great idea.
Yeah, that is. Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know enough myself about it. Only learned about it like 2 years ago.
Donna says, more woo-woo, more personal stories. Love Sedona. Oh, Sedona. Nice to meet you. I love Sedona. I've been in Sedona.
Me
Have
too.
you been to the Chocolate Tree? Do you remember that restaurant?
I did a screening at the Chocolate Tree of my movie.
Oh, you did?
Mm-hmm.
For which one? For the bees?
It's the only movie I've made. Vanishing of the Bees.
Right. Well, you did documentaries.
I've done. I've worked on a lot of different projects, but yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
I won an award in Sedona.
Sarah and I were having these little juice shots. What are they called? Oh.
At the Chocolate Tree?
Yeah. It's like fresh pressed, juice, elixirs. Elixirs. Yeah. Okay. Can you suggest a book for meditation?
I can. Sorry. Go ahead if you have a book.
No,
I have a tool. Well, in Honey Colony, at one point I was doing Muse, which I was wearing the band, and I had the app, and it will. It has some take you through the meditation. So if you're really cerebral like me and can't shut it off, so it will. You can learn how to get your mind in theta. So it has like a sense of neurofeedback as well. So it's called Muse, and the headband. It's out of Canada, actually. I think the company. Have you heard of it, GC?
No.
I mean, there's so many. I also am a big fan of Yoga Nidra. When I had my foray, one of my many forays into insomnia, because I am an authority on sleep, I have a lot of information, that Yoga Nidra would help me a lot. Have you heard of Yoga Nidra?
No.
So you just lay down, and you could find it on YouTube, and you're basically going from, you'll go like right hand finger, first finger, second finger, but you're bringing awareness and golden light to all the body part by part, and you're in Shavasana, and usually I'd get halfway and I'd have like a cat nap and then rejuvenate.
Wow.
It definitely rejuvenates. So if someone is stressed out, but I am a big proponent of good sleep, REM.
So guys, I'm gonna link this to you. I haven't watched this episode, so I'm not sponsoring it, but it's just an idea of what she's talking about. Maybe this will give you some help here. So go check out that episode. But you know what you're just mentioning about the mudras? For the last maybe 6 or 7 months, I find myself I'm reading, I'm doing video editing, whatever task it is, and suddenly I'm going into these hard mudras in my hands without thinking about it. And then I realize, why am I holding that mudra?
What, like, show me, like this?
It depends, like all different ones. I'm just like, why am I doing that out of the blue? And like, I don't know them. It's not something I've studied.
Do you ever look it up to see what it is you're doing?
No, I probably should. But it just reminded me as you were saying that, oh yeah, I've been doing that lately. And it's just, it's weird.
I'd be curious to know. Like, this is supposed to be to nullify the ego within. So I find myself when I do yoga, like I was doing this like just naturally in my poses, especially this one. I mean, this is, I guess, the mudra that I do the most. You know, another topic, we can talk about lucid dreaming. I'm sure you have more, based on what you're sharing with me, more lucid dreaming than I do. And one, I used to go to a place, JC, where we were a bunch of us, and I guess now we would be catching thermal winds and we would be flying and have a lot of flying dreams. I haven't had a flying dream in eons.
I've had one recently, and I hadn't had them for a while too. That's interesting. Yeah, we can do shows on dreaming. I love that.
Jenny says we're adorable.
Where? Oh, Jenny. Oh yeah, thank you, Jenny. I appreciate that. Please explain. Okay, wait. Hold on, Lisa. Mudras.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up that point.
I do this one sometimes. What's this one?
Let me see.
Prana Mudra number 4. I see myself doing that one.
Oh, what is that one?
I've done the number 5.
And let's look at what.
This one too. I go into this one a lot. Number 6. Can you see? Oh, sorry. Is that big enough?
But let's look at what Prithvi Mudra means. Like, what is it? You're evoking some type of energy. So I'm curious to see what is the energy.
Yeah, Prithvi. How do I spell that? Meaning? Do I do meaning? Is there any meaning here? Can you guys?
Hi, Jim.
Wait, it's too blurry. I'm trying to find a good picture to bring up on the screen. I can't even read that myself.
Oh yeah, I can't.
Hold on a second. This one? Okay. Increase the vitamin consumption in your body. Holy crap, I take a lot of vitamins already. Oh wait, increase the bit. What is that saying?
That's not good English.
No, it's a bad translation.
Okay. No way.
Jesus Christ. Okay, hold on a second, folks. I don't want to make you dizzy. Let me go meaning.
Can I answer Lisa while you're looking up?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's true. I was thinking too to ask you, well, what do you mean by the work? I'm sure everybody else's definition is different. I go back to self-awareness, sitting with yourself, developing mindfulness. I mean, when you're first starting off on your spiritual journey and awakening, it's so much fun. Like, did you ever read the what is it? The clandestine prophecy? The what prophecy? What's that? Redfield's. It's a well-known book. The Celestine prophecies. When I was reading I was 17 when I was reading the Celestine, but it was like all these synchronicities were happening. It was such a magical part of my life. I really hope we can return to that.
I'm listening. Is there more?
So yeah, sorry, I was just reflecting on.
Yeah, I could tell. I was like, go on. Okay. Do you want me to? Okay, wait. Let's go back. Lisa, I'll come back to that question. Hold on a second here. So, what am I finding here? Here, let me scroll that up. Read that and see how you're reading this.
Prithvi Mudra is a symbolic, ritualistic gesture of the hands, often used in Ayurveda or a spiritual yoga practice to promote healing and spiritual balance with the body. A Sanskrit term Prithvi means the vast one and is also the name for earth. Mudra means gesture, mark, or seal. So does that resonate?
Well, it makes sense. To balance, promote healing and spiritual balance. I mean, It's what I try to do. I just didn't realize why my body is going into that mudra without me thinking. And then I look in my hand, why am I holding it? So that's one that's often. I'd have to go back and look at the chart here to find some other ones.
Yeah, the movie was sappy. I'm sorry to say, unless they redid the movie. But I was saying the Celestine Prophecy. The book was amazing. Yeah.
So what do I mean by doing the work? Well, first of all, it's different for everyone. But by doing the work, I mean, are you still holding on to programs and people who no longer serve you? If that's the case, then that would be my definition of not having done the work. So if you're still being triggered by things you learned in school, religion, politics, whatever, and you find yourself acting on behalf of those programs and not acting on behalf of your highest self and what's in your highest interest, you need to do some work. And sometimes that means addressing some core wounds. Why are you still leaning on a program or on a person, a narcissist or whatever that's feeding whatever wound you have? That would be an example of doing some of the work. Also doing some of the work would mean not being afraid of being the spiritual woo that you are, and to say inappropriate stuff to people when you're being so guided to do so, right? Or to walk that authentic path, even though you might be very gêné in French, embarrassed, shy, to walk this path. So those are examples of doing the work. So when you ask the question in that way, that's how I would respond to it. Because a lot of people who you meet, well, I don't need to do work. I'm great. What are you talking about? Everything's good.
Those are the people that need to do the most work.
Right. Because then you look at them and you look at their relationship with their wife, with their kids, with their friends at work. Wow, that's not what your colleagues are saying, but okay. Right. So that's what I mean. Recognizing that you have some work to do. I recognize I have a lot of work to do.
Of course.
Right. I'm trying. And part of sharing those stories, where I told you earlier, was me like, whoa, that's a lot of work, because it's not easy. It's all unknown. There's no playbook. And it goes against everything I was taught as a kid. Well, you can't do this and you can't do that, and you have to act this way, and you have to, white picket fence. So, the story that we tell each other of how reality is supposed to be. And then suddenly you're in this whole new world that contradicts that. So there's no playbook. And on top of that, you're going against a lot of people around you. So it is hard work. That's what I mean about doing the work. Hopefully.
Can I add? I'd like to add to that. That I believe, again, I go back to self-awareness, and you're the common denominator. So I think a lot of the work, and check out amazing JP Spears' last on victimization, how to victimize yourself, but really transcending victim stance. Because I mean, now if you look in it's like, how.
Wait, you said amazing JP. Did you mean awakening JP?
Sorry, awakening. Sorry.
There's also an amazing JP. Okay.
Awakening JP. And it's like, how big of a victim can you be? Like closing arguments. Let's make Georgie Floyd the biggest victim. So taking self-responsibility. Yeah. How to victimize yourself. I love him. He's so intelligent and plays devil's advocate and takes the route of the narcissist a lot when he's doing his text and writing the script. Amazing. So taking responsibility. Byron Katie. The 5 questions I found very helpful. Journaling, which I've been doing since I was 13. And really, if you are having a narcissist or someone, what are you getting out of it? And that's a big one: shedding and non-attachment. Own nothing and be happy. So
yeah.
I'm just saying, still, like, you can practice non-attachment. Just look at patterns, ask questions, be humble, say sorry, and notice, and by all, like, we all have, we're human. How did we become such an unforgiving group of people where you're citing something that you've done. Are you the same 1.0 version of yourself? I'm not. I'm growing every single day. You're different. You have a different perspective.
Yeah.
So to be kind to yourself and to others, and a lot of times I can say, I am one of my superpowers is I'm a mirror. You're nice on like I will show you and I will trigger you. And I've had disruptions in my life, or meaning conflicts when I was having mold toxicity and rage brain with customers, because I was working so hard to try to get their orders, but they were yelling at me. But then because I'm a conscious person, I would call back, and a lot of those calls would end up in prayer. They would like, do not be afraid of conflict. Do not be afraid of using your voice, because I learned with that teacher, I had said something in class, and after I got hit by a car, I really had to work on getting my confidence back and feeling good in my body. And I said something and I felt embarrassed. And she's like, Maryam, you don't know what seed you planted, or what domino effect of thoughts came out of that. You don't know how it lands on someone.
Right.
So sometimes it's very easy to why I should have done this or should, but in the moment, it's like trying to put the toothpaste back into the tube. We shouldn't damn ourselves. As long as we learn, we can acknowledge, and anyone that you're in a relationship that tries to fault you, that's not the way it is. You should have a trusting relationship where you are okay to make mistakes, and it's easy being easy when things are easy. How do you navigate conflict?
Yeah. That's great. Well, Lisa, I hope that answers your question. It was a little bit long, but yeah, it means different things to different people. We're all on the same path. We're just all at different locations on that path, and we meet people along the path, that will help us, guide us, and sometimes point us in the right direction. But really, what I try to teach on this show, and what I try to teach myself first and my kids, is that we have to go away from needing that external validation all the time. We have to start looking inside for that one, because nothing outside will ever, it's fleeting. C'est éphémère en français. It just disappears. Ephemeral?
Ephemeral. You said it.
Right. And so inside that deep knowing, and you have that validation inside, that's worth gold. And that's when you stand proud as a human, as a full spectrum human, or as an adult human being who's ready to, meet the next level of our existence. I think that's where we're all trying to go. So, all right, let me thank the new PayPal tip jar donors. You guys are great. So Lisa, thank you so much. That's great. Craig, thank you. What does Craig say? JC, you rock. Thanks for all your hard work. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. Carole Gour, sounds like a French name. Merci, Carole. Thank you. Happy to exchange your energies. Merci beaucoup, j'apprécie. Monica Galvin, I think is how you pronounce it. Great show. Thank you, Monica. Justin Maloney, thank you. Michelle Turney.
So you can just hover and see their messages? That's cool.
Yeah. And dude, guys, this is way better than being monetized on YouTube. Do you know why? YouTube used to take 50%, 49% in my case, of all the super chats. Can you imagine? Like, they're taking 50% away from your tips right away from the get-go, and they're not doing anything for that. It's just crazy. Anyways, so thank you so much, everyone, on PayPal. It really makes a big difference. So she says, thank you, JC. Wait, Michelle? Yeah, Michelle. Thank you, JC and Maryam. Please say hi to my Sil, who is a first-time listener. Sil, hello.
Hello, Sil.
Her name is Carrie.
Sorry.
Wait, does she mean to my sis? Sil? No, there's no S close to the L. I don't know. Is that a typo? To my Sil. Do you understand what that means?
No.
I thought
maybe someone that's
to my Sil, who's the first time listener. Her name is Carrie. Okay, hi Carrie.
Hi Carrie.
Thank you both. I love you both. Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate that. Elisa, thank you. Jay, thank you so much. Whitney, thank you, Whitney. Fernando, I love that. Cifuentes. Oh, Fernando Cifuentes.
Fernando. Hola.
Say it. Say it with your accent.
See, I did actually a skip.
You need to roll your R's.
Fernando. Fernando.
Giggle. Yeah, I love that name. That's a beautiful name, man.
I like it too.
Fernando Cifuentes. And Victoria, that's Nana. Thank you so much. Are we back to where we were? Jesse, no, I don't think we did read these. Okay, Jesse McCartney. I agree, Jean-Claude. It's up to us to wake anyone up. That's their job. Yeah. However, that being said, I'm not for a channel like yours. I'm not for a channel like yours. I would not be where I am now. Oh, if not. Okay, sorry. I was reading that wrong. I'm learning and growing. Well, okay. So Jesse, you're making a good point. I don't say you can't wake up people. No, I think we all have a responsibility, those who have the knowledge, to share the knowledge. Yeah, absolutely. Holding back the knowledge and being king and guess it. No, that's wrong. I'm totally with you. But whether or not they accept it is up to them. So I think we're on the same page. Is that a motorcycle where you are, Maryam? What's that noise?
Sure is.
Okay. And back to this big donations. Did we read that? Love you guys. Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that. All right.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I think we should probably call it a wrap. Let me just scan one last time.
There had some other interesting comments.
Questions? So. Questions or comments? Wait. Somebody said sister-in-law. Wait, is that who the person we were looking at?
Oh, that's
Sil, sister-in-law. Got it. Okay, that makes sense.
Kids,
it's the French translation.
Don't you know what Sil means?
Sil, sister-in-law. Okay, say hello to sister-in-law Carrie. Hi, Carrie. All right, that's cool. Let me see. Shannon, please do a show about dreams. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I love that. Actually, we wrote that down. Oh, we'll do some dreaming. Yeah, we'll do a show on that. That's great. Did you note the ones you wanted to address? Sorry.
No, I didn't. I have a list somewhere. A note. There was a woman who said, the woman who wrote the book Change of Heart. I don't know. She's a woman. I don't know why I said that. Syrianification. The woman who wrote the book, Change of Heart, was a heart transplant recipient. After receiving her new heart, she was psychically led to the donor's family. Yes, I know that story personally I've read it. It opens the question, can the heart remember? It's not only also the heart. After I had my accident, I had someone that was coming to clean my house, and we became friendly, and her husband needed a kidney, and he was on the list for a long time. Sorry, it was a liver. Finally got a liver, and he was swearing, he was drinking. It turned out that it was a liver from a gang member in LA. His whole personality changed. Very weird. Wow. Yeah.
Wow. I've heard of people having heart transplants too, and having weird, different tastes. Or was this one guy too who knew a different language, like all of a sudden? And wasn't that weird?
Yeah.
I don't remember where I read that. Anyways.
This story is the new person helps track down the murderer of where she got the heart from.
Wow. Oh yeah. Hey, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, everybody's going like, wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Hey, Sage, nice to meet you. Thank you for being here. I love the classes. Sage is amazing. She's always in here with great comments. Wow, I could see that happening. The liver wanted the alcohol. Yeah, maybe. Holy moly.
Yeah, and the liver is also where we store symbolically anger. When I was doing coffee enemas, which I'm a big fan of, to reverse lupus and my fibromyalgia, because after the enemas, especially the first, 6 months of doing them, I would be at night going to sleep, and these rando memories would come up, and I felt like it was coming from the liver. So, and a lot of times when we're doing clearing energy, like my girlfriend was doing some release work, and a lot of random memories were coming up to be released. I mean, another thing of doing your work, I think, is feeling your feelings and being embodied. And here we see in our everyday where emotions are serving instead of justice, and people are letting their emotions control them. There's not a lot of adulting going on, as I like to say. But at the same time, to negate your emotions and be completely left brain, you're storing them, and you're going to develop. It's going to manifest somehow.
Absolutely. Wow. Ben, Maryam, je pense qu'on est rendu à la fin de l'épisode. I think we're at the end of this show for tonight. I'm just scanning to see if we had any last questions there. And thank you so much, everyone, for participating, giving us ideas for the show, and all the love and encouragement and the super chats or the PayPal tip jar donations. Really appreciate that. That's amazing. Oh, yeah. Like said Laura, better not talk about the PayPal tip jar too much or they might take it away. Yeah, it's funny too because on YouTube, you can add your PayPal link right there on your banner. So it's kind of like they have a reciprocity. It would be kind of funny for them to remove that. But yeah, we're taking away, I guess, from their stealing profits.
Yeah, I'm banned from PayPal.
Yeah. And I love it too, because whereas when I did live shows before my previous channel, back in the day when we were monetized, the super chats would only last for the period of the show. And I had a lot of people, sometimes 5 times more or 10 times more, watching the show on the after show. Whereas now with the PayPal tip, they can pay whenever they're watching the show. If they want to give a tip, they have access to do that. Whereas with the old system, they couldn't do that. So I think it's cool. Again, it's just a workaround to this whole idea here of censorship. Great show.
It's all about workarounds.
What's that?
I said it's all about workarounds, thinking outside of the box, not, also deleting self-limiting, like has a big part of your spiritual awakening, deleting self-limiting beliefs.
Yeah. That's what I meant about doing the work. Those past programs that no longer serve you, that you can't do this, you can't do this, you have to be this way, whatever. Who said so? Start asking that. Who said so? Why? Why is that the case? Challenge that. In Kung Fu, we call it Laos time. And it's that, weekly time where the student name was Laos, I guess is what he called it, Laos time. And the teacher would teach that every week. You have to revisit what you think you know and what you learned. And what's still good, you keep. What doesn't serve you anymore, you let go, so that you have room to put new stuff in, the new knowledge, and also to put your stuff in, like your personal understandings. And that's a weekly practice. It's a Kung Fu thing, but it's still very apropos in life. And so, Laos time, yeah.
Would you agree that in this past, under the Rona regime, for me, I've seen more than ever that beliefs really do dictate our reality. Oh, yeah. And about like, I don't want to play this game anymore. So it's really, there's a fine line between, let's say, belief or knowing, or I don't know how you define if someone's cuckoo or crazy, or that, if someone's listening, has voices in their head. Like I would never say, oh, that's a kook. I'd be like, what are the voices saying?
Right. I know, right? William says, thank you so much. Thank you, William. I appreciate that. Scott says, wonderful show. Learned a lot tonight. Awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, we're trying to do something a little bit different here, out of the box. Maryam and I being a little bit more vulnerable than we usually are when we talk about politics. Now it's about us. So it's a different frequency. So we appreciate you guys being here. And
thank you.
Yeah, really cool. Hey, so guys, check this out. Tomorrow, Jenny Moonstone back on the show. This is also a new series that we've entitled here, Space Witch. That's one of her nicknames.
Nice. Yeah.
The poster is really cool, right? We worked on that quite a bit. Let me bring it up a little bit. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, that's tomorrow at 3
Don't mess with Jenny.
p.m. and the Space Witch, because we're going to get into this tarot style of divination, but we're also going to be talking more and more about ETs, of course, because we're on this timeline of disclosure. I want to do more shows on that topic as well. So the idea is to reduce the fear by increasing the amount of knowledge we have on the subject. So it brings me to having these conversations with people who are closer to their spirit guides, people who are contactees, and people who research, of course, the Disclosure Project, like what's his name, Rich Dolan here. So so tomorrow, Jenny Moonstone, 3 p.m. And what else do I have this week? Oh, Penny Kelly's coming back tomorrow night. This is going to be cool too. There's a lot of weird, I guess, new data coming out, if you want to call it that, in her look-sees, and people are a little bit confused as to what's happening. And so we're going to try to bring clarity to some of her forecasts and what we're seeing now. Again, people are trying to figure out when's this whole story around COVID ending? Are we in this financial reset? We're going to see what it means. Is Mr. T coming back? All of these questions here have been part of her recent look-sees for the last 6-7 months. And there's a different frequency shift. In the last show, I actually didn't call it a breaking the clouds. I called it storm clouds gathering. It was getting a little bit darker in the last show, but I decided to put this poster back on today and try to keep a note of optimism there. So that'll be tomorrow night at 8 p.m. So stay tuned for that one, folks. And then, of course, wait, is that tomorrow on the same day? 27th. Okay, so Jenny and Penny are on the same day, and then Wednesday night, of course, Tarot by Janine, the weekly show. This is a fabulous show. I love doing these shows with Janine. This is really cool, and I'm looking forward to doing that one again this Wednesday night. So that's it for me. And Maryam, what about you? What's going on with the channel? You have any news?
I have to look after, because I got a second strike on my second channel. I've not really done anything. So, for instance, I did an interview. Mel interviewed me about George Floyd. I'm writing a book. It's going to be the best, juiciest book about a PSYOP examined, a multifaceted PSYOP. So we just did a teaser because I didn't know if it was going to take off. I'm looking forward to, personally, I'm interviewing the comedian Chris Mayer. I've been on her show, and I'd love to do more skits and just laugh and comedy. So I'm trying to organize, but I've really been focusing on my book, and probably will be doing a series with you. I would invite people to join this YouTube channel. I'm hoping a series such as this is safe for Susan Wojcicki and her friends. And what else? I would love to share people the Telegram. So it's me and other content creators like JC, like Vivian Kubrick, Sarah Westall, David Janda, anyone that wants to share, promote their stuff. It's just about getting, and there's a lot of safety, medical freedom information there, and real news. So may we share the Telegram channel?
Yep. Let me bring that up. I thought I had it up earlier.
I think. Oh, maybe you had me on Twitter. I'm also Lady B on Gab.
Okay,
I've been sharing. I've been doing more and more on Gab.
The links to these sites are in the description box below, guys. I'll just make sure your Telegram was added. Wait, actually, let me bring that back up because I thought I had it just before the show, and for some reason, when I did the simulcast, it kind of kicked me out, and I had the wrong data.
Do you want me to share anything?
Twitter. Yeah, I have your Telegram there. Okay, so let me take a link. Okay. Yeah, it's in the description box below, guys. Let me just bring that back up.
And Gab.
I don't have your Gab though. No.
Okay, let me just share my Gab. If people are on Gab, it's too bad you can't message people. You can't, because on Twitter we had these different medical freedom groups where we can support each other.
Yeah. Did you send the link to your Gab?
I am. I'm getting it. One second.
While you're doing that too, let me go back to the comments. Wendy was saying, yeah, JSNIP4 and Woo Woo Dude are having a hard time getting information about events this spring. Yeah, Penny Kelly said something about a wall. Like when she keeps looking, she hits this wall. So she's been seeing that since maybe end of February and March during one of our last shows. So there seems to be this weird veil that's preventing a lot of these psychics and remote viewers from seeing through it. So that's why there's a little bit of confusion here. So anyways, we'll talk about that tomorrow night.
A veil. Interesting.
Yeah, something weird. Okay, so I have your link. Let me bring that up.
I would say to people, someone mentioned the coffee enemas. If you have lupus, I'm a functional medicine consultant and coach, so I would be working with you and someone else. But anyone that tells you can't heal, you can tell them this. Sorry. So you can. I mean, I don't know your condition, so obviously there's some conditions like
right.
in late stages, and I'm not giving medical advice, but I can definitely help, and I'm a big fan. That's actually, JC, my most watched video on YouTube is the one on coffee enemas.
Seriously?
Oh, yeah.
That's cool. I love that.
Yeah.
Let me just add your Gab to the description box in the video save.
And people can also go to Honey Colony, which is my magazine and marketplace. And if you use the code BeyondMystic It's an affiliate code for Jean-Claude, and all of our products are made in the USA. And this has been a site that has felt the wrath from the FDA, FTC, the big pharma, and it's all excellent products.
I can speak to two of them, Curious being one of them, and the colloidal silver, which I love. So guys,
that's actually not colloidal. The machine.
No, it's 400 times more chelated.
Chelated, yeah, chelated.
Chelated? How do you
I
pronounce
used to say chelated, like I used to say pneumonia, but it's not pneumonia.
Do you remember that show where the girl's trying to pretend to be rich and she's like a trailer trash girl, and she's like, I bought this Versace instead of Versace, right? The Versace. And then in Family Guy, there was this episode of the dog who brings a girl to dinner, like a fancy restaurant. Like, I'll have the escargot and the chablis. And then he's like, sure, I'll have the escargots and the chablis.
I'd love to do a skit like that. Sometimes I've called when I'm booking for back when I traveled, and be like, hi, can I please speak to a supervisor? And she was from Texas. She said, I love your accent. And I was like, wow, it commands respect, that British accent. So it's my alter ego, Sassy Sasha.
Oh my God. Okay, wait a second. Lakeside Laura. Website again, please. Oh, maybe the Honey Colony? Let me bring that down. Yeah, that's Maryam's business. I think that's what she's asking for. So there's a link. Wait, did I have that in your Patreon?
I think so. You just were on it on Honey Colony.
I don't have your Honey Colony there. Why? It used to be there.
You were on it.
Oh, no. Yeah. Sorry. Let me bring that up for the audience. No, I brought the link down here in the chat, but I was looking at the video description. Something happened when we posted this show, and I lost something. Okay, so now the link to Honey Colony, and I'll actually put your...
it's interesting. Those buttons are new, those view buttons.
What was the discount code for Honey Colony?
Oh, BeyondMystic.
One word, BeyondMystic? Okay.
But if you may you scroll up? It's a magazine too, so it's looking at health issues, but it's if you click on wisdom, Jean-Claude, so you can see basically all the different gut-brain connection, mind-body, natural antibiotics, news, blah, blah, blah. So it's taking the angle of empowering people to be their own best health advocate, and I'm really into biohacking.
Yeah, it's beautiful. There's a lot of work in all of this. So guys, yeah, go check it out. And Simply Transformative, what can people find there? I know, is it all deactivated now still because you don't have the processing payment? What can people find there now?
They can't find anything. I have a liposomal organic CBD with Chinese herbs that I've been making since the end of 2016 before Martha Stewart and Kim Kardashian and everyone and their mother. And unfortunately, Jack, who owns Square, kicked me off the day of the deadly insurrection. Right. So it's been already 4 months, and it's been quite a laborious process of working with the broker. And it's like last time I was like, what do they want to know? My blood type is O-. Like I wear thongs. Like what more do they want? They've called me at home. They've gone to my fulfillment house. It's easier to get a processor for marijuana than CBD with no psychoactive properties.
Incredible. C'est incroyable, Maryam.
Oui, c'est incroyable, vraiment.
Alrighty, folks. So there you have it. And on a daily basis, if you want to follow Maryam and her work, she's the most prolific, I guess, on Twitter is where you can.
Not anymore.
Not anymore, no.
No.
Since the
I'm on Gab and Telegram. I think I'm just sharing information and just focusing on writing a book. But yeah, I'm sharing more here.
Okay. Well, Gab it is then.
Yeah, because I lost I think in total 8,000 people from Twitter.
All right, that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah.
For another show. All right, folks. Well, there you have it. That was the first episode of the Quantum Woo with Maryam and I, of course, part 1. And there'll be many, many more to come. So, folks, if you're watching this on replay, please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and comment below. Let us know what topics you want us to cover, and also share your experience with the community here in the chat below. And let's get this conversation started. Maryam and I are happy to share our personal journey through this spiritual awakening path with you guys. And thank you so much, everyone, for listening in.
Yeah.
For sharing with us and for creating the space for this show to happen. I really, really appreciate that. And of course, thank you everyone for supporting the show. You guys really rock our world. So thank you so much. Merci beaucoup, Maryam.
Merci à toi. And thank you also. I'd like to say thank you for your lovely, heartfelt audience. Thank you.
Alors, merci beaucoup tout le monde. Mon nom est Jean-Claude. Merci et au revoir.
Au revoir.